with some guns, boy.
Yo, we are back. It's your boy Divine Sense Boxing back in the building. And it is time to get to boxing. Back to boxing conversations, man. Looking forward to it. Nice and simple conversation to talk about tonight for y'all back in the States. We're going to get it in. I know that a lot of people are kind of doing their live streams right now. I was just over at Stormy B Man's channel here just a few moments ago, but I got to get it in when I can get it in, man. And tonight's topic is Devin Haney. I feel like it's a topic that I got to get out there in the universe, you know what I mean? Put it out there in the atmosphere, state my opinion about Devin Haney and his potential and the 135 pound division. I'll say 130 to 140. Fuck it, 130 to 140. And give my thoughts about it, man. So there is a poll in the chat. Make sure y'all vote in that poll. Let me know what you think. All right, it's a very simple poll. Out of the names listed in the poll, who do you think has the best chance of actually beating Devin Haney? Let me know. And as we go along, we'll check back at the poll and see where it stands as the live stream continues. Also, there is a link pinned up at the top of the chat. At any point you want to jump in, leave your thoughts, feel free to do so. Give a shout out to my man Mangus Allen, first one in the building. Salute to you, Mangus Allen. We got Willie Beecham. What's good, bro? It's been a while since I've seen you, Willie, man. Hope you're good out there. Hope that AZ heat isn't killing you, bro. I know it's been getting heated up all across the United States. Y'all got a heat wave going on right now, man. I've been seeing the news. Vinyls Crew Clips in the building was good. Omega Red in the building was good. We got Dwan Freeman in the building. Isaiah Felix, DP Rocker. My man DP finally made it in. He's always doing those AM cleanups with G5, man. I never see you come over here late night, bro. Good to see you. Make sure you guys come in, hit that like button, man. Let the people know we're in here talking about boxing. Like I said, clean cut, simple, straight down the line. Boxing conversation. All right, Devin Haney. Let me peep the poll real quick before I start cooking. See where we at. We got 10 votes in the poll so far. 70% says Tank. Tank's the man. Tank's the man that can defeat Devin Haney. That's what people are saying right now. Nobody for Loma. Nobody for Teofimo. And we got 30% for Shakur. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, we'll see where this poll ends up, man, as we go along. We'll see where it ends up. All right. So, turn this down a little bit. So look, everybody, man, like I said, I just wanted to come in here and give my thoughts about Devin Haney. You know, I've heard a few live streams here and there. I was on Blue Blood's live stream earlier today. He was talking about a lot of different things, but he did spend some time talking about Devin Haney and his thoughts about Devin Haney. For me personally, I'm more or less aligned with Blue Blood, man, and how he feels about Devin Haney. I was pretty much in agreement with everything that he was saying in regards to Devin Haney. And to be honest with you, you know, I don't always agree with Blue on everything. I support his hustle. He is a, you know, influential person here in the boxing community here on YouTube. I respect his grind. I respect his hustle, but we don't always agree. But I do agree with him in regards to Devin Haney. Now, I want to make one thing clear before I really start cooking on this, that this conversation has nothing to do with resumes. All right. That's not really my MO. All right. I don't really like talking about resumes too much. It's a fucking headache for me. It's subjective a lot of different times. When you start talking about who they could have fought, who they should have fought, the mandatories, and who's the champion, that shit just gets frustrating for me. I can talk about it if I have to, if I'm in a debate, but I much prefer just talking about styles and how they match up and who do I think is going to win the fight, because at the end of the day, resumes don't always matter, right? The two men got to show up in the ring and fight each other. It's going to be mano a mano. So it doesn't really matter, you know, per se, what the resume says. We see it all the time in boxing. One guy has a better resume than the challenger. The challenger comes in and stomps the champion. We've seen it multiple times, right? Now, for argument's sake, you can put resumes out there. You know, oh, this guy fought. I mean, we used to say that, not we, but some people used to say that about Anthony Joshua, right? Oh, man, look at all these heavyweights that he's beaten. There ain't no fucking way he's going to lose to Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz ain't fought nobody. Andy Ruiz haven't fought nobody. And what happened? That's why resumes don't always mean shit. And that's why I don't like to talk about it unless I have to. So this is a stylistic point of view conversation, a boxing matchup, and that's how we're going to stick to it. So I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, well, I don't know why you feel that way, Devon, because this guy fought way more different fighters than what Devin did. I don't want to hear none of that shit, okay? I don't want to hear none of that. Does experience matter? Yes, it does matter. It does matter, but it's not the most important thing. You know what I mean? Styles is the most important thing, in my opinion, and how they match up. At the end of the day, Devin's a champion. He's undisputed. Right? Until somebody proves me otherwise, then the resumes don't really matter that much to me when I got an undisputed champion in front of me that has all the fucking belts. That's my opinion. So let me get into the styles, the breakdowns, and I'll give you guys my opinion as you guys continue to vote in the poll. Looks like Shakur has went up a little bit. We got a few people that just came in and voted for Teofimo. We got a couple people that voted for Loma. So I knew that was going to happen eventually. What's up, Marcus? So let me say this first and foremost. Get it out there in the air. And then I'll talk about each and every fighter that is in 135, maybe 130, maybe 140. And obviously, we don't know the future. Devin has great potential, in my opinion, to move up to 140 himself. But let me quickly speak about Devin Haney. And once I get done speaking about Devin Haney and my opinion of him, you guys are pretty much going to know where I'm heading. But like I said, there's a link pinned up at the top of the chat. If you want to come in and voice your opinion, feel free to do so if you're available. Look, for me, I feel like Devin Haney right now, as it stands, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best, boxers in the game. That is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly why. There's a reason why I put in the title of the live stream, will he eclipse Floyd Mayweather Jr.? As we all know, Floyd Mayweather Jr., 50-0, 49-0 if you don't want to count the Conor McGregor fight. That's up to you. Nonetheless, retired undefeated, multiple-time champion, right? Broke pay-per-view numbers. He holds all different kinds of records in the ring as well. Defensive genius. Defensive genius. One of the most accurate punchers of all time, etc., 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 right? That's a big mountain to climb for any fighter that is currently fighting to be able to eclipse. I'm just keeping it 100. Rather you hate Floyd, like Floyd, what I just said is fact. You didn't like his style? Okay. Then you got to come in with some other type of substance to prove to me that Floyd, when it's all said and done, will be an all-time great. Probably easily in the top 10 and on some people's list, top 5 all-time greats. You don't have to agree with it, but when the history books are written, that's where I think he'll be placed. So it's a big mountain to climb if you're a fighter right now currently trying to eclipse that type of greatness. And I think Devin Haney has the best chance to do it. There are a lot of similarities between Devin and Floyd, and I'll explain it. Blue Blood touched on it earlier today, and I agree 1,000%. He was saying that a lot of people didn't like Floyd in the early stages, and they didn't like Floyd at all his entire career, right? There are a lot of people, and you can argue that 40% of his income in his boxing career, especially during the later stages of his Money Mayweather campaign, 40% of his income are people that were paying for pay-per-view and going to the fights because they wanted to see him lose. 40% came from haters. There's a massive amount of people who just never liked Floyd, still don't like Floyd, but they're slowly starting to recognize that, like, damn, Floyd was pretty damn good. All those people who've been hating for years, now they're either silent or they're starting to come around and recognize the abilities of Floyd. Right now, currently, what's up, Don? Right now, currently, there's a lot of people who don't like Devin Haney, just like they didn't like Floyd. Why? Style. They don't like his style. It's not entertaining. It's not engaging. It's frustrating for the casual boxing fan. Oh, he's got to work on his power. He doesn't engage in combinations enough. He doesn't try to hurt his opponent enough. He boxes too much. He's too defensive. He uses the jab too much. Right? All these little lame-ass criticisms are being thrown at Devin Haney, just like they were thrown at Floyd Mayweather. But they continue to be victorious. So there's a similar path, right? Both, Floyd and Devin, distinguished amateur fighters. They have, they started boxing early. They have that pedigree. They have a support line as far as family's concerned. And there's a lot of similarities in their styles, right? Boxing first. Hits and not get hit. Right? Now, you can argue that Floyd was probably better defensively. But Devin's young. Y'all need to rewind the tape. There are people in here, like I know DP, probably Omega Red, probably Dwayne Freeman. I'm not sure about the rest of y'all, man, but y'all got to remember Floyd in his younger days, right? Pretty boy. Yo, that kid, man, had all the tools. Footwork, speed, power, right? Combinations, defense, the whole package. Right? Floyd at 130 probably had more pop behind his punches, or even 135 for that matter, more pop behind his punches than what Devin has. But stylistically, very, very similar. So, what's my point? What's up, Not Zay? I see you in the building, bro. So what's my point? My point is very similar paths. The comparisons are very similar. People that have been hating on Floyd for years are now starting to recognize Floyd, and I feel like the same thing is going to happen with Devin Haney. Right? Now, I feel like, let me change the mood up a little bit. I feel like Devin Haney, especially after watching the Kambosos fight, and there's a part of me that hates to use Kambosos as a credible example, because I think Kambosos is a pretty decent fighter, but in my opinion, you can get upset if you want, but he's not an A caliber fighter. He's a B plus at best fighter. Devin's an A class fighter. He proved that in the first fight. I mean, he literally proved that he's a class above George Kambosos, right? But take it for what it's worth. Devin Haney put on a boxing master class. And it's not just a fact of him overwhelming, outboxing, outmaneuvering, outpointing Kambosos every fucking round, pretty much. And what were the things that we said leading up to that fight? We were saying Devin Haney going into Kambosos' backyard against a potentially hostile crowd, against a potentially hostile judges. He's got to go in there and perform Mayweather versus Gotti. And that's pretty much what he did. Maybe not quite to the extent, because obviously Floyd, as we know, went on to stop Gotti. Gotti, quit on his stool and probably put a little bit more punishing on him. But the domination factor in regards to Kambosos never really looked like he had a chance the entire fight. Right? So watching that fight, being under the lights, being under a hostile environment, going into an environment where, like I said, judges may not go your favor if you just try to cruise. Devin Haney emphasized putting a jab into Kambosos' face the entire fight. It's like landing the jab all night long. Didn't really need to load up with combinations. And to me, one thing that came to mind was, who the fuck can get past that jab? A long, rangy fighter with hand speed, with fantastic boxing fundamentals, who's 5'9", 5'9 and a half, who has one of the longest reaches in the division, who can carry that reach easily into 140. Right? Who can get past that jab? Right? That's the very basics. Before you even get into any type of boxing conversation and matching fighters up, you got to first think about that. Doesn't matter who you put in the ring against Devin. That's the very first thing that you got to ask yourself. Who can get past Devin's jab? Jab to the body, jab to the head, feint jab, straight right hand. Anything that encompasses the jab, who can get past it? Can Teofimo get past it? Teofimo had trouble with Kambosos' jab. Can Lomachenko get past his jab? Devin Haney's taller, longer, just as fast in my opinion, compatible with footwork. And Lomachenko has shown to struggle with fighters that have fantastic jabs before. Can Tank get past the jab? Once again, taller, longer, boxing fundamentals on point. Can Tank get past Devin Haney's jab? Because you know damn good and well, a fight against Tank Davis, the jab is going to be a massive part of his game plan to keep a guy like Tank off of him. Can Shakur Stevenson get past the jab? Right? These are the questions. What's up, Pat? What's up, Tay? Jay Grant Jr. in the building. Big Dog in the building. What's good? So that's a question I'm asking you. And I see some of y'all answering it. Some of you say, yeah, Shakur can, Tank can. Cool. But this is part of the process. And when you start breaking down fights, this is the process that you got to take. We can't get too caught up in the theatrics of boxing. Well, Tank got power. Tank knows how to punch inside punches. Oh, Shakur's got hand speed. Fuck all that. None of that happens until you get past Devin Haney's jab. Devin Haney's has, in my opinion, the best jab in the business. The best jab in the business. You're going up against the best jabber, if that's even a fucking word, in the business. And it's his ability to move that jab up and down. It's his ability to pivot off the jab. It's his ability to sidestep and also slip and land the jab. And it's a punishing jab. There's intent behind Devin Haney's jab. That's why Kambosos couldn't do shit. What's up, Antonio? Jay Grant, facts. We're going to talk about the power. We're going to talk about that in a moment. We're going to talk about it. So now that I've thrown that out there, food for thought. Who can get past the jab? Y'all can decide for yourself. Before I continue, let me double check on the poll. We got 24 votes in the poll. How the hell we got 25 votes in the poll but only 16 likes? I don't know, but that's how people do me, I guess. Just barging through the fucking front door. Don't even ring the doorbell. Don't knock on the door. Nothing. Just walk in like you own the bitch. That's how y'all do me. Anyway, 25 votes. We got Tank at 64%. Loma and Teofimo both at 4%. And Shakur is at 28%. So the overwhelmingly majority is Tank at 64%. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes from here. If y'all just click the like button, I saw the likes go up a couple. I appreciate you. So, now, let's move on to the next topic at hand. I put it out there for the jab. Now, the jab ain't everything. Larry Holmes had a fantastic jab. There were a few fighters that figured it out, were able to counter it. Muhammad Ali had a fantastic jab in his prime. Few fighters figured it out. You know, Joe Frazier had that peekaboo ducking underneath the jab style and come up over the top. Right? There's fighters that have fantastic jabs and they've been figured out. Floyd Mayweather had a very good jab. Shane Mosley punched over the top of that jab. He pull countered that jab, landed with the right hand and almost knocked Floyd down. All right, it happens. It happens. But nonetheless, the odds are not in your favor. If you're getting out jabbed in a fight, the odds are not in your favor. So that's the one main point. Now I can get into, movement, pivoting, defense, combinations, ability to counter, Now that's something that if somebody wants to come on the panel and discuss it, I'm willing to do that. But I'm going to save that. I'm going to put that in the ice chest unless somebody actually wants to come in and discuss it. What I'm going to do now, what's up, Johnny? What's up, Christian? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down the list from fighter to fighter. And I'm going to start with, I'm going to go ahead and start with, I'm going to start with Teofimo, right? Because for me, that's an easy one. And then I'm going to go down the list of the other fighters who are in the conversation of who has the potential to beat Devin Haney, right? I'm going to start with Teofimo. Just in case people come in here later to watch the live stream or whatever the case may be, or if there are currently Teofimo Lopez fans in the building. I'm just going to address it. I see you, Dawn, man. Thank you for the super sticker, bro. I appreciate you. Teofimo, man, look, to me, that's a style matchup that is hell for Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez has a puncher's chance. He's got more of a puncher's chance than what Kambosos had, obviously. We can't forget that Teofimo did hurt Kambosos. Even though Kambosos got the nod, he also dropped Teofimo. Teofimo also dropped Kambosos. And if it wasn't for Kambosos' determination and heart, Teofimo could have been losing that fight and got a late knockout, right? So credit to Kambosos there for getting back up and finished the fight. But with that being said, it's a stylistic matchup nightmare for Teofimo. Because for Devin, he already knows. What does Teofimo like to do? He likes to load up. He likes to try to get close and load up. And also, Teofimo is okay with taking a punch to give a punch. So what do you do when you're dealing with a guy like that? Well, you just don't allow him to find any range, no matter what. If you're punching, you're moving. Against a guy like Teofimo, when you punch, you're moving. You never allow a man like Teofimo to set his feet. He's dangerous when he sets his feet. That's the mistake that Lomachenko made against Teofimo in the early part of that fight. Is he allowed Teofimo to set his feet and let off what he wants to let off, and it forced Lomachenko in a defensive manner and not be able to let his hands go, which therefore he lost rounds by points. It wasn't until later in the fight where Lomo started to figure him out a little bit and started bouncing around and doing what he usually does, which kept Teofimo on edge. So that's my point. If you're Devin Haney, that's exactly what you do. When you jab, you move. When you check left hook, you check left hooking and you stepping. You stepping across, right? You're keeping that right hand close, tight to your chin because you know that left hook is looping around, is trying to come around and try to land something big so he can follow up with the right hand, right? You go into the body constantly. You keep in range. You're the longer, taller fighter. Devin Haney beats Teofimo Lopez in a 12-round decision, 8 rounds to 4, 9 rounds to 3, easy. So that's that. Now, then we move on to Lomachenko. Let's talk about Lomachenko right quick. Now, that's a nice boxing matchup, right? That's a nice boxing matchup. Both of them have very good boxing ability. There's going to be a chess match in regards to who's going to get the better foot positioning, who's going to try to establish the jab. But once again, as I mentioned earlier, Devin Haney, in my opinion, has the advantage over Lomachenko due to just frame, size, length, and hand speed. He's going to out-jab Lomachenko, in my opinion. Now, Lomachenko has the ability, if he figures you out, you know what I'm saying, to roll the jab and try to come in and use his foot speed to land combinations on the inside to try to offset Devin Haney. There's a very good possibility. I give Lomachenko a fair chance to beat Devin in a boxing match. But if you were to ask me to put my money on it, I got Devin Haney in decision. Probably something like, I got him winning by a round or two. I think length, hand speed, and ability to control distance against a guy like Lomachenko will give him problems. But Lomachenko, with his experience and his abilities, will put some rounds in the bank. He'll grab 4, maybe 5 rounds. But I just don't, and he doesn't have Devin Haney. I want to say this too. Now the topic of power is going to start to come into play, because we're going to start talking about Tank and Shakur here in a moment. Devin Haney's chin is underrated, in my opinion. And Lomachenko he can hit pretty good, but he doesn't hit Teofimo good. He doesn't hit Tank Davis good. And if you're a guy like Teofimo who has good boxing ability, but you're also going up against a good boxer who is compatible, if not slightly better, who's longer and rangier than you, you need to be able to crack. You need some type of skill set that can offset that slight disadvantage that you have of being shorter, not having as long of a reach, and fighting a guy that has the same type of hand speed that you got. So you got to be able to touch him and hurt him so you can get off a nice combination to either take a round or hurt him, drop him, whatever the case may be. And I just don't think that he has that type of ability. And I think that Devin Haney's chin will hold up against Lomachenko. That's my opinion. What's up, 88 Sports Talk in the building? Deanna Branch in the building. So that's Lomachenko. I think he'll put up a great effort. I think he'll do better than Teofimo, but I still think he loses by at least a round or two. Now, let's go to Shakur. Since Shakur is second in the poll right now, if y'all jumping in, you guys know what you got to do. Hit that like button, get the likes all the way up. So Shakur, which is number 2 in the poll. Now, I'm going to say it right off the bat. I'm going to talk about Tank. But if I were a part of the chat and I were to vote in this poll, personally, I would vote for Shakur. I think Shakur has a better chance to beat him than Tank Davis, which I'll get into the explanation. The thing about Shakur is he's the type of fighter that I just can't put a finger on it, man. But there's something about him. There's something about Shakur that I just think he's a problem for anybody. And if I were to have Devin the best, Shakur, to me, in my opinion, is number 2. And that's no disrespect to Tank Davis. And I'll get into the explanation of Tank here momentarily. But that's just how I feel about it. Shakur's ability, man, his hand speed, the viciousness and the body attack, and he's brave. Like he's so good at giving you a target to make you commit, and he makes you pay. Like Shakur is so good at that. If you go back and rewatch that Herring fight, I appreciate you, Stormy. Yeah, I was enjoying your live, Stormy, man, but I'm trying to get this live in. You know what I mean? I got to get it in when I can get it in. So I was originally going to go live at 8, but I let you cook for about 45 before I came live. But I appreciate you. But Shakur Stevenson is so good at giving you a target, making you think that you're in range to hit him. And as soon as you commit and you take the bait, he hits you with the 3-punch combination. Bop, bop, bop. Right? That's what troubled Herring so much. Then Herring got into a situation where he's just covering up too much, and that's where Shakur wants you. He wants you in that high guard so he can just pick you apart. To me, in my opinion, Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson is a toss-up. That's a tough fight to call. It's a tough fight to break down. Y'all getting VIP access to a breakdown of this fight. If it were happening in the future, y'all already going to know where I stand on it when the official prediction comes out, or before the official prediction comes out, if that fight happens. And I think in that fight, Devin Haney, just like everybody else, will take the bait from Shakur. Shakur is a great trap setter. He's a fucking fantastic trap setter. He's one of the best at it. And I think he's better at setting traps than Devin. Devin is systematic. Devin is systematic. He has a plan. Use my jab, use my feet, keep range, get the right hand in when I can. You know what I mean? But control the distance, control the pace of the fight. Ring IQ. That's Devin Haney. Shakur is slightly different. He has those abilities, but he's slightly different because he's a fantastic trap setter. And he's not afraid to let his hands go. He's not afraid to let his hands go. He won't be like Kambosos. He'll let his fucking hands go, and he's got the hand speed and boxing ability to be able to do it. And another thing about Shakur is he will touch Devin Haney's body. He will put Devin Haney's body to the test, in my opinion. Right? So that's just how I see it. That's how I see it. I give, if someone said, all right, Devon, you got to bet money on it. You got to bet your house on it. Who you got, Devin or Shakur? I still take Devin. I still take Devin because Devin, once again, man, it's hard. It's hard for me to go against the man, because he's got so many attributes. Now, I can pick a few things like, Shakur's better in this area. But then it's like, yeah, but Devin, man, he's got the size, the length, the reach, the boxing ability, the IQ, the amateur pedigree. He's got a dog in him. He's got determination. He's got a chin. And every single time, right, that balancing scale starts to tweak a little bit, right? It starts to go in Devin's way. But I got Shakur a close second. Now, let me get into Tank. And just a reminder, the link to join this stream, if you want to voice an opinion, is pinned up at the top of the chat. So, Tank. I've been waiting to talk about Tank for a while. And I guess this will be like a prelude, because I'll probably do a separate live and just talk nothing about Tank Davis and my thoughts about him as a fighter, stylistically, all of the promotional side of things, Mayweather, the fact that he hasn't fought any high caliber fighters. I push that to the side. I look at him as a fighter, right? Open the package up, boom, what do you get? Tank Davis. Phenomenal fighter. Phenomenal fighter. Reminds me a little bit of Roberto Duran, right? Hands of stone, dude can crack. He's got that, as Teddy Atlas likes to say, he's got that eraser, right? He's got the ability, kind of like Deontay, to just boom. He can be down on the fight, or he can be in a tough fight, and he can time some shit. Bam. That's why, and it's funny that I mentioned the comparison to Deontay, because people always say, oh, Deontay, all he's got is power. He ain't got no skill. That's when I know you're a casual. That's when I know you're a casual. Because there ain't no such thing on this green earth that's actually 70% water. I don't know why people say green earth, even though it's 70. The earth is 70% water. Anyway, there's no way possible that you can land the type of power that Deontay has without some type of skill to be able to time it and land it. You got to, rewind the tape a little bit, right? Right? Rewind that record. You go back and watch when Deontay Wilder knocked down Tyson Fury in the 12th round of the first fight. He timed it so perfectly in the sense that Fury was ducking down into his shoulder roll to try to avoid the punch, which means that in flight, Deontay had to change his, trajectory, had to change where his punch is going to land in that split second. Change it to be able to land it flush on the chin. He changed it as Fury is starting to duck down to try and slip that punch or duck underneath it. That is skill. That takes ability. That's just a side note, because y'all motherfuckers irritate me talking about Deontay ain't got no skill. If y'all say that shit to my face, I'll slap the shit out of you. But the reason why I bring that up is Tank is similar, right? Not similar in the style of Deontay, but the power of Deontay and the ability to figure you out and be like, oh, when I throw this, you do that. Okay, got you. He registers. That's what happened to Rolly. Just a matter of time. That's what happened to Leo Santa Cruz. It was just a matter of time. Right? Tank believes in his power, just like Deontay Wilder believes in his power. I can lose 2 or 3 rounds. It don't matter. I'm going to catch you. When I catch you, you're going to sleep. right? Now, Tank on a boxing level has more abilities. He's really good. He can move his feet really well. You know, he can. If y'all ever notice, he switches stances sometimes to show you a different look. He rolls his shoulder well. All that stuff. He's better than Deontay. There's no debate about that. But Deontay's a fucking heavyweight. He doesn't need to do all that shit. Right? He doesn't need to have all that. But Deontay and the things that he can change, because supposedly he is coming back in the ring, the things that he can change to have a last hoorah in his career, to try to pile up a couple victories and maybe regain some titles. There's a few things that I think he can change about his game, but that's another live. But Tank, he's got ability, right? People are fixated on his power, but he's got a lot of different abilities. But to me, the game changer against the Devin Haney fight is actually the power. I mean, that's what it is. You take the power away from Tank Davis. If you give Tank Davis average power, right? If you give him Kambosos power, does he outbox Devin Haney? That's a question for the chat. If you take away the ability of Tank Davis to put someone's lights out with one punch, because he has that ability right now at 135, if he catches you flush, you sleeping. If you were to take that ability away from him, y'all pay attention to what I'm saying, because it's divine sense boxing, motherfuckers. I break this shit down stylistically. If you take the ability away from Tank to land that punch to put you to sleep, can he outbox Devin Haney? Yes or no? Jeff in the building. My answer is absolutely not. The whole reason why the fight is intriguing is because Tank does have that ability. He has that eraser. And it's not just he flings a wild punch and he's got a bunch of power and he might land it, right? This ain't fucking Mayorga, right? This is a guy who can calculate and time it, slip, counter, land it, good night. It's a punch you don't see, and he's got tremendous power, and you're going to sleep. That's what makes a Devin Haney-Tank Davis fight appealing and intriguing, and of course the fight will sell, because that's exactly how you build it up. So, with that being said, let's hone in on that question once again. If you take away Tank Davis's power, does he outbox Devin Haney? I see a bunch of no's. My answer is no. My answer is no as well. So if you're Devin Haney, what do you do then? Come on, boxing fans, talk to me. What do you do if you're Devin Haney then? Let me repeat myself. If Tank Davis doesn't have the power that he currently possesses, does he outbox Devin Haney? So what does Devin Haney need to do? Boxing people, talk to me. He's got to take away his power. That's it. That's it. Now, it's tricky. It's tricky. How did Tyson Fury take away Deontay Wilder's power? He isolated Deontay Wilder's power by smothering him, right? By leaning on him, grabbing on him, right? Using a shoulder roll and then stepping in with that shoulder to bump Deontay off balance when he threw a big shot, right? Flinging that loose ass, long ass jab in his face, right? That's how he isolated Deontay Wilder's power, but Deontay was still able to get it in that third fight. He's still able to get it, even though when you go back and watch the fight, there's moments in that fight as a Wilder fan, especially, where you're cringing, right? Because he's getting punched, he's getting hit flush, his mouth is wide open, he's not putting his hands up, right? So if you're a casual observer, you're like, damn, Deontay is getting his ass beat, right? But he was still able to get he was able to get two big shots in that nearly ended the fight. That's the crazy thing about it. And they were great shots. The shot that he landed against Fury that shook his whole body, right? His whole body did like a wave. It was like shock waves down his body. That Deontay Wilder, by the way, broke his hand. He broke his hand on that punch. How Fury got up, only God knows. I've already made a mental note. When I die and I go meet God, I'm going to ask him, how did Tyson Fury get up from that punch? Man, I saw his whole goddamn body shake. His spinal cord did the Macarena. How the fuck did he get up from that? So only God knows. Right? So the tricky part, though, about Tank and Devin is that Tank isn't just about, like I said, winging a big, powerful shot, because Devin and his ability, he's going to see that shit coming all day. No, it's the calculation is where Tank Davis is dangerous. Because Devin can come out there rounds 1 to 5, right? On his toe, pop, 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 jab, moving, right? Showing different angles, jab of the body, right hand to the body, check left hook. And Tank, he's a smaller fighter. So he's got no choice to try and figure out where that jab's coming from that's trying to offset him. And he's going to stretch out a little bit to see where his range is at. And every time he does, Devin's going to pop him with the jab, right? Feint with the jab, right hand down the pipe. And every time Devin does that, he's going to pivot out of direction. He's going to pivot out of distance. He can do that for 5-6 rounds straight, dominating the fight. All of a sudden, those 6 rounds, y'all thinking that Tank has been getting outboxed, but that's the thing with Tank. Those 6 rounds that he's let go, he's been calculating the whole time. He's been timing. So it's just a matter of time where he's gonna slip that jab, southpaw coming over the top, left hand, boom. He's gonna land it. Can Devin Haney take it? Can Devin Haney take it? Now, this is the key to the treasure chest right here. Can Devin Haney be that guy? Can he be different than Leo Santa Cruz? Can he be different than Rolly Romero? Can he pull back just enough to take the heat off that punch? Because it's going to land. It's going to land. But can he pull back just enough to take the heat off that punch to survive Tank Davis's best punch? Because if he can, it's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. It is a wrap. It is a wrap. There might be in that fight a Floyd Mayweather, Shane Mosley moment where Tank times something perfectly, lands it big, buckles Devin, whatever the case is. That is where we're going to see the real grit of Devin Haney. If he even does get knocked down, can he get back up and get back to boxing? Just like Floyd did against Shane. He got hit, came back, dominated the rest of the fight. It was like watching a professional fighting an amateur at that point. And no disrespect to Shane. I love Shane, especially at 135. But it is what it is. He got completely outclassed. What's up, Frank? I've already talked about Loma. Frank, I talked about him earlier, man. You may have missed it. But Frank, feel free to vote for Loma in the poll. Right? So this is boxing, right? It's a conversation. We go, okay, what if this? What if that? That is boxing literally. What if this? What if that? Right? What if the referee didn't give Buster Douglas a long count and Mike Tyson actually won that fight? What if Jack Reese would have called the fight when Fury bounced his head off the canvas? What if Jack Reese called it? What if in the third fight, Fury Wilder, when for some fucked up reason, Mora redirected Wilder into the neutral corner when Wilder was already fucking going there anyway? Right? What if? There's a lot of it in boxing. But once again, if you were to put your house on it, who would you bet on? Devin or Tank? Because if you go for Tank, if you bet your house on Tank, You're saying that Tank's going to knock out Devin, or he's going to hurt him badly to where it stops, or he can't recover, or whatever the case may be, because that's literally what you're betting on. Frank, what's up?
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's on your mind?
Oh, I just checked in for the topic. Can he be better than Mayweather? Is that the actual underlying question?
It's part of it. Yeah, we're just talking about who can beat Devin, and yeah, can he be or can he eclipse Mayweather?
It's not even close. He would have already done it. Floyd, did you ever see Floyd fight Chico Del Corrales?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, he was 10 times the fighter Kambosos was, right?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Okay, he was 30-0 with about 29 knockouts. Absolute killer. We know Kambosos was at best a B+ fighter, but you wouldn't say Kambosos was an A fighter, would you?
No.
Okay, so you seen what Pretty Boy did, which that fight kind of propelled him to superstardom, and you seen how Devin Haney handled the Kambosos.
Yep.
Arturo Gatti was probably maybe better than Kambosos. What did Floyd do to Arturo Gatti?
Well, well, he demolished him. But the thing is this, right? Is that Floyd's career is done. So it's easy as it is right now, where Devin Haney's still in the prime. He just entered the prime of his career.
Well, you can't. He's already 28-0. When Pretty Boy fight Chico, what was he, about 26 fights in?
Sure. If you were to say Floyd at 24, Devin at 24 years old, who was better? Well, of course Floyd was, right? But Floyd also had a different career path than Devin did. I mean, he came out of the gate blazing, right? Fighting the Olympics. A lot of people are upset that he got robbed in the Olympics. He had a lot of names attached to him. Floyd Sr., Roger Mayweather. His career path was different. He was with Bob Arum, Top Rank. He got big fights very quickly, right? And that's why Devin Haney. That's literally why Devin. Because I personally feel like Devin Haney is fighting for legacy. I think that when you compare other fighters, I think he truly really cares about legacy. He's like, you know what, man? I'm going to go to Australia. I'm going to fight this dude in his backyard in a hostile environment, potentially hostile judges as well. And I'm going to outclass this dude. They'll have no choice but to give me the decision, right? I feel like he's willing to take whatever risk necessary to chase a great fighter like Floyd. And he is, yes, currently chasing him. He hasn't eclipsed him, because the question is, can he in future eclipse him? Now, how do you eclipse Floyd? Well, obviously, you got to get people like Tank on your resume. You got to get people like Loma on your resume. You got to get people like Shakur on your resume. And then you got to move up in weight, because that's what made Floyd great, was moving up in weight, conquering multiple weight classes, and along the way, fighting real champions that were holding belts, not just winning vacated titles.
Right.
Floyd beat champions and took their belt away from them. So that's what Devin has to do. Now, in my opinion, he has all the tools. He has the frame at 5'9". He's bigger than Floyd.
Then how come he doesn't have the KOs that Floyd had? How come he didn't finish dudes? Like, what do you think of Floyd Mayweather would have did to Kambosos? If we look at what he did to Del Corrales, who we agreed was a much better fighter.
So if you put
Floyd, what do you think Floyd would have did to Jojo Diaz, who, when Floyd won the title from Gennaro Hernandez, you would have to say was a much better fighter than Jojo Diaz.
Okay, so you're
saying that was when Floyd was what, 19-0, 20-0?
Okay, so you're saying Floyd at Floyd as Pretty Boy Floyd at 130, 135, fighting Kambosos or Jojo Diaz, what do I think he would do?
Yeah.
Well, he would probably, I think that he would stop Kambosos late. Jojo, I think he'll win by decision.
So you think Jojo's a better fighter than a Gennaro Hernandez, who had 15 title defenses in that division, was the best man at that division?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
that's what it'd say, because you would have to say Gennaro Hernandez is a much better fighter than Jojo Diaz. And Devin
is a better fighter,
was running from JoJo Diaz.
But a better fighter doesn't necessarily mean that when we're comparing like the ability to take a punch and last 12 rounds. You know what I mean? Like you can be a phenomenal fighter. Roberto Duran was a phenomenal fighter, and he got stopped in fights. Right? So I'm just saying I feel like JoJo is tough enough, in my opinion, to last 12 rounds. But it's a comfortable decision for Floyd. Kambosos,
go ahead.
I've seen him get dropped by Teofimo. If Devin had more power, he could have easily stopped Kambosos, and that's why I say Floyd stops Kambosos.
So then Devin Haney, by the same what you just said, he can't. It's a no. It's a resounding no. We'd have seen it already. Because you got to really look. What would Floyd Mayweather, Pretty Boy Floyd, have done to Kambosos? I mean, that fight would have been ugly. And Devin jabbed and grabbed for 12 rounds.
Yeah, but I think you're a little bit too fixated on comparing Devin Haney to Pretty Boy Floyd. There's no.
But that was the question.
No,
can he eclipse Floyd?
Floyd stopped being Pretty Boy Floyd by the time he fought Oscar De La Hoya. He was no longer that style. And a lot of his stardom came from being Money Mayweather. That's when he broke pay-per-view records. That's when, he started to get into 140, 147, 154, these catch weights and shit like that. He wasn't the same fighter. You're comparing Pretty Boy Floyd to Devin Haney. There's no argument. Obviously, Pretty Boy Floyd is a way better fighter than what Devin Haney is right now. He's a better fighter, number one. Number two, he had already accomplished more at the same age as Devin Haney. But I already explained to you the career paths have been very different. But when he became Money Mayweather, he also was pot-shotting and grabbing, right?
There were instances
and no longer engaging like he once did. But Devin Haney doesn't have to be a Pretty Boy Floyd puncher to be able to eclipse Floyd Mayweather. What it comes down to is what is written in the history books as far as resume. If Devin Haney outboxes Tank, if he outboxes Shakur, if he outboxes Loma, he goes up to 140, outboxes Josh Taylor, takes those belts, ends up at 147 and beats somebody like Earl Spence.
Now, I noticed something interesting. You said he's chasing legacy, right? That's a distinction you're making about Devin Haney, as opposed to who?
Well, every fighter you would hope is chasing legacy, right? But Devin Haney is making it abundantly clear that there's nothing going to stand in his way to get. Well, I mean, he fought Kambosos for all the belts and went into the man's backyard. How many other fighters would do that? Real talk. Would Tank
he
go
only
to
got
Australia?
that because Loma was in the war. That's why.
Okay, but would Tank go to Australia?
Well, that's why I'm asking you. How are you defining legacy chasing? And who doesn't meet that requirement?
Floyd Mayweather, because he's a smaller man that moved up in weight classes, he automatically is going to be something to look up to if you're Devin, if you're Tank, if you're whoever at 130, 135, 140. Naturally, you're going to look up to Floyd because Floyd fought in those weight classes. So he is the pinnacle. He is the guy that you're chasing essentially to try to be better than. I mean, Floyd chased the greats as well. He was chasing Pernell Whitaker and his status. He was chasing Oscar De La Hoya and his status. They all do it.
I'd have to disagree because Floyd just said Floyd was always about, it's not about legacy, it's about, the money. That's why he changed the
I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that.
Weren't those his words? Isn't that what he's saying about Tank right now?
I don't give a shit. What Floyd says a lot of shit, bro, that I take with a grain of salt.
Well, we have to take a man at his word, or what? Then what is a man without his word?
Men say shit all the time, bro.
But then how do you take a person? So couldn't you say the same about Devin? There's a reason I'm asking you this.
Oh, I'm listening.
So that's what I'm saying. How do you define legacy? As opposed to who? Like who would you say is doing like what Floyd kind of talking out the side of their mouth? Is not chasing legacy.
When has Devin ever talked out of the side of his mouth?
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying you say Devin is chasing legacy. So who's not chasing legacy?
I'm saying that everybody that is that's in the top 135 if you want to put it if you want to hone in on 135 only.
Okay, let's
make
look
it simple.
at it.
Right? Yeah. Who is not wanting to be, or who does not want to fight for legacy? Well, obviously, you would hope to think that everybody is, but actions speak louder than words.
Okay, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words. Devin tried to fight Teofimo for fucking years, and Teofimo ducking the shit out of him, and he fought Kambosos. Devin Haney trying to fight. Devin Haney has never one time
ever that's not really factual.
Devin was trying to get out of a fight.
Devin was trying to fight Lomachenko. That's what he said. So who's an example that's not chasing legacy? Because I'm looking at the names right now.
I think you're twisting the question too much. It's not a matter of who's not chasing legacy. It's a matter of who is showing more determination to chase that legacy.
Well, there's a reason I'm asking you that, and that's why I'm asking you. If you're saying he's chasing legacy, what legacy?
Hey Frank, I'm just wanting to say this. I think you're trying to nitpick stuff right now. So it's just, I think you're taking. Divine is just saying that Devin become a bigger person. I mean, better fighter or better legacy than Floyd Mayweather.
Well, I'll just get to saying. But that's all
he's saying. But I think
but the reason I was asking is because he's chasing Garcia, because he was at the Ryan Garcia fight, obviously chasing a fight. Now, is that chasing legacy?
Well, I mean, he called out Tank just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I think that's what they do nowadays. I think it's a different time period, because they have to because right now, I'll be honest with you, fighters don't fight each other. We all sit up on this panel and say they duck the shit out of each other all the time. And so there's people who don't even have belts who duck other people who don't have belts. So it's a different time period, and I think that you're looking at it from the time period from Mayweather's time period, and I think that's a big. You can't compare the two. It's sad is that way.
But that was the question. That was the question, though.
Huh?
That was the question.
So that's the question, but you didn't. It took you time to get to it. So it just. But in my opinion, I think I had to agree with you, Frank. Divine Sense. I can't, as of right now, at 135, Pretty Boy is miles and miles and miles ahead of Devin.
I never said that he wasn't.
Okay, I just said he fought way better competition.
I never said that he wasn't. I already said that Pretty Boy Floyd is better than what Devin is right now currently. But I already explained that Floyd Mayweather, number one, his career is over. So it's easier to look back at Floyd and be like, man, look at all those accomplishments. Devin's still going. Devin still got another 10 plus years to be able to accomplish great things, right?
Well, we look at it differently then, because I would say he would already he would have already accomplished those things. Like, he has almost 30 fights. I don't think
those fights in Mexico.
You're comparing, like Big Dog just said, you're comparing it's already a different era of boxing. We're in 2022. When Floyd was Pretty Boy Floyd, we're talking like what, 1998?
So then what's the measuring
stick? 2000s?
So then we're going to change the parameters.
But that's fact though, bro.
Then you have to set the parameters.
Hold on. Let me finish my point. You don't compare Floyd Mayweather to Sugar Ray Robinson, do you?
That's a great point.
Sugar Ray Robinson he fought Jake LaMotta 6 fucking times. You don't compare eras. You can talk about
Sugar Ray Robinson.
You can talk about all-time greats. You can talk about all-time lists.
5 times in 1 month, man, in the month of December.
But you have to set the parameters then. You can't say. You have to set how you're defining it then.
I'm saying that you can. It's a slippery slope when you compare eras. It's just facts. You got to be a historian of the sport. You're saying Devin Haney, and I agree with you. Stylistically and skill-wise, and what Floyd proved as Pretty Boy Floyd is
so that's what I'm saying. What are we going to use as a measuring stick?
But my point is this: you can't then criticize Devin Haney by saying, "Well, he ain't really done shit yet." It's a different era, bro. And it's not like Devin Haney.
A question.
Yeah.
Let me finish. I'm gonna finish this last point, Stormy. I'm gonna swing it to you. It's not like Devin Haney. Now, I'm with you if there's evidence and fact that Devin avoided big fights so he can either chase money, chase a belt, whatever it may be. Devin, he been calling out everybody. Nobody wants to fuck with Devin, bro. That's fact. And it's not because he's dangerous. It's because he'll box your fucking head off. He's a problem. This is the sweet science. Anybody who has the skill of the sweet science is a threat. It always has been. It always will be. Do you think people feared Willie Pep because he punched hard? They didn't want to fight Willie Pep because the motherfucker can't be hit. It's boxing, bro. Stormy, let him know.
Yeah, salute to everybody on the panel. Salute Divine. Thanks for inviting me on. Frank, what I wanted to ask you is what parameters are you setting to place it sounds like you're game for a debate on something, but I would like to know what you're getting at, because
no, I'm answering the question. Can he eclipse Floyd? And no, because he would have done it by now.
No, how could he do it by now if his career is not yet over?
That's what I'm saying. He would have already had done what Floyd had done.
No, you can't
type
say
of performances
that.
That he had.
You can't say that. Even off of his last fight that he had against Bozo Circus, the whole thing comes down to they didn't want to make the fight with him. Vasily Lomachenko didn't want to make the fight with him. After being defeated by Teofimo Lopez, Teofimo didn't want to make the fight with him. You have all of these guys who have gone left when they could have gone down the right path that have avoided Devin Haney over the past 4 years. We're talking about 4 years of top-notch guys who have avoided this man. And we're talking at least about 4 different people that had they just faced him over these past 4 years, the view of Haney might be even softened, because more than likely he would have defeated these guys.
So then you answer the question then. So he can eclipse Floyd Mayweather?
His career is yet to be defined.
But can he eclipse Floyd Mayweather? That was the question. And that's what I was answering.
Listen, don't question me without allowing me to answer the question. Okay? That's what you have to understand in communicating. If you pose a question to someone, give them a chance to respond, not control the answer that you want to hear, because you're asking them something to give of themselves. I'm giving of myself to you and everyone who's listening here on the panel and in the chat, but I'm giving you me. I'm not giving me you. You understand? It's 2 different things.
And I'm listening.
To answer your question, he is not yet done, and he hasn't had any career-defining fights yet. There are people who can provide that for him, but he can't force them in the ring. Floyd Mayweather had an opportunity to fight a lot of familiar names in an era when men would just step up to the plate and fight one another. That's not what's happening today. If it were, then the very people whose name I've run off already opposite of Haney, we would have seen certain fights take place where you can assess how good someone is or is not.
That's all speculation. It's all speculation. There's no real answers. I mean, it's all opinion based.
No, it is not an opinion that he is still in the midst of his career and he hasn't had a career defining fight yet. That is not an opinion. That's a fact.
So, allow me to switch the question, Stormy, real quick. Since I'm trying to hear Frank, I'm trying to see his perspective. So let me play devil's advocate then for a moment. You're saying that he cannot eclipse Floyd because if he were going to, and we have to say were going to or is going to in a future tense, because his career is still active, right? So if he is going to eclipse Floyd Mayweather's resume, then he would have essentially already done it or has got close to doing it already.
Just looking at, without any biases, just looking at their careers and where they're at.
Okay.
You know,
so
when you look at 2 men in their state of life, right? same age, same background, everything. You see who's more ahead than the other at that point in time.
Sure.
And that's what I'm going by.
Divine, just to answer this.
Okay,
can I answer this a little bit?
Point.
Like me and a guy graduate at the same year, right? We both graduate high school from the same year, and then we have our reunion. We can't say, well, yeah, you know, in 10 years, well, the 50s were different. We say, look, this is where this man's at, and this is where this man's at the same point in their careers. And that's the parameter that I'm using.
I don't really understand that analogy, but let's put that on hold for a moment. We can revisit it. My question is this then to you, because Devin's career is still ongoing. If Devin beats the likes of Tank, beats the likes of Shakur, and let's not forget that these men, their careers are still going too. Tank might go on and be fucking undisputed in 2 different weight classes. We don't know by the time Devin faces him.
Yeah.
Right. So all of this is, you're right, it is speculative. It's assumptions, but we simply just don't know. But as it stands right now, Tank, Shakur, Loma, you can throw Kambosos in there too if you want. Anybody at 135 that are in the top 10. If Devin beats 95% of those men, then goes up to 140, conquers belts there, then goes to 147, takes belts there, could you put him in the conversation of Eclipse and Floyd?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of ifs, but if what you're saying, that can go for anybody. If this,
that's the reality, though, bro. Is that you?
No, I know, but I could just bring up, if Ryan Garcia beats all these guys, then yeah, he's greater than Floyd.
Sure, anybody. I mean, but we're not talking about Ryan. We're talking about Devin. But
no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of ifs. If this, if that. But we're talking about right now.
Yes, bro, because Floyd's career is done, so it's easy for you to say, "Look what Floyd did." Now, you got to eclipse that. Well, that's what these fighters are trying to do, bro. But you can't ignore the fact that this is a different era. Now, they will be judged accordingly when it comes to the all-time great list, just like Floyd will be judged accordingly. I can't put Floyd above Sugar Ray Robinson, even though I think Floyd
it's opinion-based.
is one of the best fighters of our generation.
Right.
But I can't put him above Sugar Ray Robinson.
There's people that think Sugar Ray Leonard was better than Floyd. It's all opinion-based. I mean, at the end of the day,
and and by you saying that Devin Haney hasn't and probably can't eclipse Floyd is your opinion.
Yeah, it's just my opinion, guys.
Sure. Yeah,
that's it. It's all
and we're all trying to make our point. But my thing is that, I mean, if somebody says, who do you think's better, Divine? Floyd at 135 or Devin at 135? That's an easy fucking answer for me. Floyd. Easy.
And again, I mean, maybe you don't like the parameters I'm using, but I just look at what Floyd did at 135, and it was beyond anything that Devin can accomplish at 135. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna give you your point. Yeah, he could possibly do it, but he hasn't, and he's almost 30 fights in. So I'm not gonna use if he did or if he didn't, and who he didn't fight or didn't fight.
Go ahead, big dog.
Okay, this is what I want to say to you, and I want Stormy, or maybe Divine. How many fights did Cesar Chavez have before he had a defining fight?
80 something. He was already 80 fights in. We know that. What's the point?
Okay. It doesn't matter. You just prove. What do you mean? What's the point? Look what you just said. You said that Westham had this many fights, and Floyd only had this many fights, and he's 35 fights in. How many? Chavez is great, right? Julio Chavez is great, Frank.
He's considered an all-time great, yeah.
Yeah, okay. How many fights? You said you had 80-something fights or whatever. Would you? Yeah. Okay, that's the measure. Okay, you can't use that measuring stick.
No, I'm going to shut that down because what I'm saying is it's all opinion-based. And yeah, a lot of people won't consider Chavez greater than some other Mexican legends because of that it took him 80 fights. Like a lot of things, we can negate every fighter based on certain attributes. That's why I'm saying it's opinion based, and this is the parameters that I'm using.
But how many fights that you have do not make you a great fighter or not?
Yeah, in the era, anything can hold you back. We can attack any fighter's resume, their time in history. We can do all those things.
But you say he's 35 fights in.
A lot of good fighters before he made it to 80 fights. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, Canelo didn't become big. He was 40 fights in before You know, I mean, and guy, this Muhammad Akadaliv better be if there are only 17 fights in. You know, like.
And to be honest with you, Frank, I would say that Floyd was actually more. I don't know if I say better.
Teo accomplished what he did with 15
more
fights.
Distinguished. He was more distinguished at super featherweight than he was at lightweight. Floyd was, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's why I look at the fights.
You have to give people the opportunities. You have to give people the opportunities, and that's more. Like Loma had opportunities coming out the gate.
That's a great point, Big Dog Willie, because just like Frank mentioned, Gennaro Hernandez's name earlier, right? Now, Gennaro Hernandez was a very good boxer and a world champion, a class act. But one thing you could say about the era that Hernandez fought in, and then it ran over into when Floyd came on the scene. He gave Floyd a shot. He may have known that Floyd was pretty darn good, but still, as a champion, the champion in him said, "Hey, I'll fight this kid," you know. But when the fight ended, he conceded that Floyd was so good. He's like, "I can't do nothing with this kid." He actually said it in the ring before they left the ring in the post-fight interview. What's outstanding about that is this. For the man that he was like that, you don't have those type of men today. There are guys that will look at Devin Haney and have looked at him and say, "Oh, he's pretty good," but they won't say it publicly, but they know he's good and they will not fight him. You got a guy whose name you mentioned just a moment ago, Garcia, who is now going up to another division just so he can thrive. Because the men that are at the division where they were all campaigning are too much of a threat to what he's trying to protect. And the things that he's trying to protect, they cannot be protected in boxing. They can only be ridiculed and mocked in boxing, which is why he needs to find something else to do. Because even the men who are managing and promoting him are going to run out of smoke and mirrors. They will not be able to protect this guy. So when I talk about what Hernandez did facing Floyd, there are men in this current era who will not do what Gerald Hernandez did. You see? And that's what's hurting the sport of boxing. Devin is not such a creature that he's running people scared. It's the people who are running who are scared. You understand? It's like Devin is trying to do what Floyd did and other people did. He's trying to step up to the plate of legacy and challenge, which is what you're supposed to do in this particular profession. But some of these other men got it twisted, and they have people behind them and promoting them and managing them, trying to make money and not trying to make the most of the fighter.
Well, that's why I said, if we're talking about legacy, define legacy and chasing the bag, and who's an example that's chasing the bag and not doing like what you're talking about, chasing legacy? Because everybody should hypothetically be chasing Devin Haney, right? They should be chasing him for a legacy, but they're not. They're chasing Ryan. Why is that?
The thing is, if they had faced Devin before he got to where he is now, something could have been defined. Remember, I said he has yet to have a career-defining.
Nobody was chasing Floyd either. Floyd was chasing.
Right. Floyd did a lot of chasing.
Floyd was chasing. There's nobody was chasing Floyd until Floyd became Money Mayweather and people trying to get a payday.
When Floyd fought Gotti, he was chasing Gotti.
Facts.
Yeah.
He talked mad shit too before that Gotti fight. Mad shit. Gotti ain't shit. I'm gonna destroy him on ESPN with Brian Kenny to fucking rip Gotti to shreds. That basically forced Gotti to, like, you know what I'm saying, take the fight. Right? But look what I have up on the screen right now. Since you want to talk about, Devin Haney, yeah, he's 23. Who has he fought? So here's Floyd's resume right here. Before he turned 24, he had Diego Corrales, on his resume. I'm going to throw out some notable names here that I think that matter. Diego Corrales. I'll give you Emmanuel Augustus. Even though Emmanuel Augustus had several losses on his resume, he still was a very credible fighter, in my opinion. And I'll give you Gennaro Hernandez. In my opinion, Angel Man Freddy is like a Kambosos, in my opinion.
Right.
So that's it. He's got 2, maybe 3 names at 23.
Okay,
now,
but
with Devin Haney at 23, who does he got? He's got George, he's got JoJo, he's got Linares, he's got Gamboa. Is it as good?
Gamboa. Don't use Gamboa. Come on, we know that was. Don't even say Gamboa was credible. He fought Bud over. He started at 1. Look, just throw Gamboa at. Come on.
In 2020, I got you. Gamboa was no longer the same fighter. But in 2014, 15, 16, Gamboa was a hell of a fighter. Was he not?
But he wasn't when Devin faced him. You got to throw that one out. That's not a credible opponent.
Okay, so what? He's got Kambosos, Joe Diaz, and Linares.
And are any of them Chico Diego Corrales?
No, they're not. But what I'm saying is that are we really comparing apples and oranges here? Is it a light years difference? Is Floyd's
how else are we supposed to?
Better?
Yeah, it is. Who is Diego Corrales on the opposite of Devin Haney today? Who is?
No one.
I wouldn't say that anybody was equal to him. But I can't disseminate and say, well, if this, then that. I'm saying what I know and I have in front of me. And it's performance-based. I think it's performance-based too, how we did it and what fashion.
You're talking about throwing out guys, but he's fighting who will get in the ring with him. I have yet to see anyone say, give me Devin Haney. I have yet to hear anyone say that. I've heard people make fun of him and mock him and say certain things that don't lead to a boxing match.
Well, and I'm gonna say why is because he's not a seller, and the biggest fight in boxing is Tank Garcia.
That's your opinion.
That's the problem today. That's the problem today.
That's not opinion. That's what the numbers tell you.
Listen to what I'm saying. Where in the hell are Teofimo's numbers and where in the hell are Lomachenko's numbers? Where are they?
Say that again.
Where in the hell are Teofimo's numbers and where are Lomachenko's numbers?
Well, they were going for undisputed.
I didn't ask you anything about undisputed. I said, where are their numbers? Their numbers are in the trash, just like anyone else that wants to say anything about Devin. But I guarantee you, if either of them got in the ring with Devin, they could make money and people would tune in and watch because they are contemporaries who should be facing one another to give us better insight to see who is the best at this time amongst them. The very same thing that I added earlier that's not happening, that used to happen in the other era of Floyd and Gennaro. Those men got in the ring with each other. These guys are finding reasons not to.
Can I just answer? Somebody had said something. I just want to answer that person, not to throw anything off, but do I care? I think, okay, my opinion of Devin Haney, and I was asked this question. I think on Devin Haney will beat all these guys if he's on his A game. He has to be special, but if he implies his style, then he beats everybody. But do I care for it?
What guys are you talking about?
No.
I'm curious.
He would be
talking about
a Tank if he implies his strategy, what he did against Kambosos and plays it safe and jabs and grab. He'll beat everybody. I mean, but he has to truly be on his A game. But do I care for it? Not really. I prefer Tank. I think Tank's a more exciting.
Right, so there it is.
Fighter.
There it is. And there it is. And that's what I was waiting for. The truth is that I feel like there is a slight little annoyance when it comes to Devin Haney's style for you, which will persuade you one way or the other. Because let's get down to the nitty-gritty. A lot of people that don't like Devin Haney is because naturally they say, Devin Haney, pretty damn good, 130, 135. But he wasn't Pretty Boy Floyd good. Floyd was knocking dudes out. That is not a dispute. But this is boxing. It's not a strongman competition. It's not about how many people you can knock out. It's great if you can knock people out. But just like I stated earlier, before you came in here, Tank Davis, if you bet for Tank Davis to beat Devin Haney, you are betting
I don't
on
pick
the fact.
I actually picked Tank Davis.
Let me finish my point
Haney.
though, because there are a lot of people in the chat I have a poll in the chat right now that's like 60% saying Tank can beat Devin.
Yeah, that's
the only way that you think that Devin is going to lose to Tank is if Tank knocks him out. Because I feel like Devin will outbox Devin Haney all day, every day. I am an advocate of the sweet science. Admittedly,
you have a preference.
Will admit that Willie Pep is my all-time favorite fighter.
Yeah, that's your preference.
So I have a knack for the sweet science and the ability to hit and not get hit.
Willie Pep,
Sure. So I think that's the clash. The clash is that you like more of a pretty boy Floyd style, slick, defensive, can hurt you, can land combinations on you. But bro, you know what the honest truth is? Those styles hardly last. Floyd couldn't hold up that style when he got up to 147. By the time he faced even Castillo, he started having hand problems. He started having shoulder problems. That type of style hardly lasts. And to be honest with you, I think Devin outlasts Shakur Stevenson because Shakur Stevenson is way more aggressive than Devin is. It's great to see. But by the time he's 28, 29, 30 years old, is he going to be able to have that same type of output?
Well,
see, I give credit for Floyd because Floyd's smart. Floyd knew by the time he hit 30 that he said, I got to box these motherfuckers because now I'm fighting dudes that are 24, 25. I'm 32. I can't let my hands go like I used to. I'm going to hurt myself. So I'm going to pot shot. I'm going to grab. I'm going to box. Devin is already doing it. Devin is way more mature for his age on a boxing level.
Well, I would disagree. I got an example for you. A guy named Meldrick Taylor was probably 2 times the fighter Devin was. So, your legs can go just as well. It depends who you face. Meldrick ran into Julio Cesar Chavez. It's going to matter who you run into. And if Devin ran into that type of fighter, maybe he's there yet, maybe he's not. That's going to be a long night.
Every single fighter, bro. That's common knowledge. The first thing that goes in boxing are your legs.
But your take is kind of like how Charles Barkley used to get on the Warriors. Oh, you can't win. You have to have a big man. This is how you win, because you're a boxing purist. But they changed the game. The game can change. It's always going back and forth. It just depends on that guy on that night. So Devin could run into a real killer, Maybe Teo improves and Teo beats him. He just has that night like Chavez did against Meldrick. And Meldrick was winning that fight, but, he was facing a guy that wasn't going to stop.
That's a poor example, bro. The referee fucked that up. I ain't even going to discuss that.
Yeah, that was a bad example.
That ref, that fight.
Well, they had a part 2, and the part 2 wasn't even close.
Yeah,
I just
throw that in there.
Thing about Big Dog Willie's avatar, man. That shit is hilarious.
I know it's a joke.
I'm not even gonna recognize it. I'm tired of the trolling, man. Fuck Big Dog, the trolling ass. talking about chins. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? I know it's easy to say that Devin hasn't really been tested by a big puncher. I can agree with that. But from what I can see right now, I think that Devin's got a hell of a chin. I think he took some big punches against JoJo.
Somebody who I think would have put it on Devin is Zab Judah. He was my favorite, and then he ran into a guy that clocked him. But he had a second career. That's what I'm saying. Like, we put too much emphasis on this legacy and chasing greatness. I mean, guys are going to lose. They're going to get clipped. It's boxing.
The ability to take a punch sometimes also comes in with the preparedness of a fighter. A fighter that's very much prepared, meaning that they know that they may have to receive contact in order to get off what they do. They prepare themselves psychologically for things. Even when you hit them and hurt them, they convince themselves they're still good enough to persevere and go through and press forward. That's a championship caliber quality that a lot of fighters don't have. It takes a certain type of mentality. So therefore, I believe that Divine is much correct when he says that Devin has a good chin, because Devin understands the business of boxing. You're going to get hit sometimes, but the objective is not to get hit too much and not to get hit too cleanly. And that's what great fighters can do for themselves, including Floyd Mayweather. Floyd was a guy who hung a lot on conditioning, both mental conditioning and physical conditioning, which went hat in hand.
Yeah. Well, people thought Roy Jones was never going to lose.
A lot of that as well.
And people thought Roy was never going to lose. It happens, man. I mean, Roy
let me
probably
tell
had
you a quick story about Roy. I'll tell you this. This was around the time when he had just gone up to light heavyweight and started competing. And I had a good friend of mine who loved boxing like everyone here does and everything. And he was like, Roy is my boy. He's like, Roy is this and that. And I told him at that time, this was way before he ended up getting stopped by Antonio Tarver. I told him, I said, listen, man.
The second time.
When Roy loses, he's going to lose spectacularly. And he was like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, let me tell you something. The Lou Del Valle fight showed me something about Roy that I didn't really realize until it happened. In the fight against Lou Del Valle, when Del Valle dropped him in that fight for the first time in his professional career, 3 or 4 rounds later, because I think it happened around the 7th round or whatever, my memory fades on that, but whenever it happened, it was at least 3 rounds later, HBO mics picked up in the corner. Roy was sitting in the corner. Alton Murchison was giving him his water and giving him instructions for the next round. And Roy was sitting there saying, damn, I can't believe that dude dropped me. When he said that, it told me all I needed to know about him mentally. See what I said a moment ago about guys being conditioned to take punches because they know at some point they'll get hit? Roy thought he was never supposed to get hit. And that was because of the athleticism that he had that was different from everyone else. He came along in the era, he was just that guy who could get away with certain things because of the youth, the fast twitch muscles, and things of that nature. But what he didn't realize is that Father Time comes along. And when Father Time comes along, no matter how good or great you are, it's going to show up.
But you don't give no credit to Antonio?
Let me finish, please.
Okay.
And once it began to show up, what began to happen? Not only did Roy get stopped once, he got stopped a couple more times. You see what I'm saying? Because when guys were able to catch up to him, it wasn't about he wasn't a good fighter or a great boxer or anything. What it was is that he was a mortal being, and he thought of himself as not so much. The difference between he and Ali is that Ali found out that once he could take a shot, he really had no other druthers or fears in the ring. Roy was always worried about getting hit. We just didn't see it because of everything that masked it. Okay? But if you go back and look at the knockout that Tarver got on him, he threw a hell of a right hand at Tarver, straight down the pipe. But Tarver, who had listened to Buddy McGirt just the round before, he said, get lower. And Tarver got lower, so the right hand went toward Tarver's chest more than his chin, because Tarver crouched and came over with his own left and hit Roy flush on the jaw, even when Roy was following up with the left hook, because he threw the right and it missed, and he was following up with the left hook, and Tarver came right over with that straight left on Roy's chin and caught all of it. But I say those things to really paint the picture of when a fighter is conditioned to take a punch, they don't worry about getting hit. They worry about what they're going to do to the other guy. But you cannot hit and get out of the way at the same time. You have to make one commitment or the other. Sweepy made the commitment of making you miss. Roy made the commitments of getting you first, but he opted to try to get out the way too. And when that ability to get out the way kind of slipped, that's when he would get caught. There's plenty
Stormy,
of guys that could
Stormy,
be
I need to go. Stormy, I need to go. Okay. Stormy, I need to go. But I just want to say, I think was with Roy lacked the IQ though too, and the boxer IQ, and when his athleticism went away, I that was it. So, yeah.
Well, I disagree on that one, but that's your opinion.
No, I know because if he would have had boxing IQ, like Stormy said, he would learn not to take that punishment or try to use his athletic ability to do that. He had a skill and ability to last a lot longer.
It's boxing, people lose.
He was losing. But after he got hit, he was losing all the time after that.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That don't mean he didn't have boxing IQ and he wasn't great.
No, I didn't say he wasn't great. That's not what I'm saying. His boxing IQ for how good he wasn't as par as it should have been.
I get
there wasn't many who had more IQ than him.
Might not have the same name, somebody?
So Antonio had more ring IQ than
No, that's
Roy,
not what.
Roy
That's
beat
not
him.
what. That's not. No, okay, you're not catching what I'm saying. I'm saying, Dorian B-Man just said it to you, but he didn't use the word IQ. He said that Floyd, Ali realized that they can't do their shit they were doing when they were younger.
Facts.
Well, Antonio had a lot to do with
Roy
that.
never made adjustments when he started to see that his athleticism was failing him.
And Antonio had a lot to do with that. Antonio did one thing that a lot of people couldn't, and that was punch with Floyd. He was going to get K'd or KO. You know, he punched with Floyd. I mean, not
Frank,
Floyd, with Roy.
Frank, can I ask you a question? If this was 1998 Roy against Antonio Tarver, who do you think would have won?
If it was
1998 Roy Jones against Antonio Tarver, who do you think would have won that fight?
Probably Antonio.
Okay. All right.
A guy can have your number. A guy can have your. Hey, a guy can have your number. Sometimes a guy just.
Peace and love to all you guys.
Mayorga had Vernon Forrest's number.
Devon,
Vernon Forrest a better boxer?
Frank, thank you for having. I'm getting ready for work.
Yeah, Vernon Forrest beat Shane Mosley, who got beat by Ricardo Mayorga. So, I mean, there you go with that.
There's plenty of examples that go around, but my question would be for you then is why did nobody have Floyd's number?
Well, Castillo, you could arguably say Castillo did.
That's a reach.
It's arguably that Castillo beat him, and in the rematch, he didn't really want to engage.
Well, Roy lost to Antonio Tarver twice.
So
my point is Floyd won a
Roy won the first one. Roy beat Antonio in the first one.
Apologies. Yes, you're right. But my point is Floyd won a controversial first fight and he dominated the second fight. It wasn't really close.
You're saying Antonio, it was controversial. Antonio probably arguably won. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
I'm saying Floyd against Castillo.
Oh, Floyd against Castillo.
Floyd won a controversial first fight. Second fight, he dominated. So I don't use Castillo as an example of having Floyd's number. Floyd also had a shoulder injury in the first fight and couldn't, watch
the second fight again. What did you see? What did you see in the second fight when he fought Castillo?
He made adjustments.
He kind of ran, wouldn't you say?
And he was healthy.
Yeah, it was an ugly fight.
That Floyd was enjoying the beginning of the era that we see now toward the end of his career. I believe that a lot of his contemporaries and the guys that were there for him, they weren't as dedicated as he was to the craft. And it showed with the lack of boxing. It's interesting. He would do, you remember the burning the money and throwing the money at the camera, I'm Money Mayweather and this and that, all of that stuff, and showing himself at the club and stuff. And guys were like, yeah, that's the life I want to live too. But it was a psychological twist, because when guys would start to be like that, Floyd was in the gym working hard with Roger. You know what I'm saying?
Stormy.
And one of the things, like, I like to use this fight as an example when you talk about Floyd. Zab Judah had more talent than Floyd, but Floyd was a better fighter.
Yeah, he's more dedicated.
He had a sharper mind. If you could give Zab Floyd's mindset and approach to boxing, Zab would probably be an all-time great.
Mm-hmm. Well, he finished strong. I mean, he had a great career.
Well, his career, he fell short of what he could have been. His potential was so much higher. I remember when they used to refer to Zab as Sweet Pea with power.
Mm-hmm.
And some people may not remember that, but I remember that. And that was before Costa Zoo. That was before a lot of other things took place, because people were just beginning to find out about Zab. Of course, locally, New York and coming out of there, people knew him. But I'm just saying, before he began to show up on the bigger venues like a HBO or even ESPN or whatever, people didn't know. But when they began to see, the talent was there. If he had a different mindset, he was supposed to be Floyd's great rival. But even in that fight, he came apart mentally. And you saw what happened. It's a shame, but the psychological aspect of boxing is so important that most people they overlook it, which is why so many fighters fall short of their glory. So many will.
True.
I just think there's an aggravation level. There's an aggravation level all across the landscape of the boxing community of styles similar to Devin, similar to Money Mayweather, similar to even the Klitschko's, if you want to throw them in there. This grab and hold, pot shot, whatever it is, which I totally get it. I get a little bit agitated myself when people want to compare Klitschko to Floyd, Money Mayweather, because Money Mayweather, although yes, he did pot shot, although yes, he did grab, he put in way more combinations and more boxing fundamentals in his work.
Yeah, but he still stopped Hatton. He KO'd Hatton.
Yeah, but that's it.
He went toe to toe with Miguel Cotto.
But Floyd was still
would give Devin the help fight of his life.
20s, early 30s when he fought Hatton. He was still pretty fresh. I'm talking about Floyd when he fought like fucking Maidana and those guys later in his career.
He fought Maidana twice, and
I know Maidana, he had no choice but to hold a lot because Maidana was just all over him, and he didn't want to get hit with some like wild shot that loops over the top. You know what I'm saying? So he had to hold. But see, my thing about Floyd is that Floyd, and I don't know if you know this, Frank. You probably new to the channel. I'm assuming that you recently subscribed, but I've been around YouTube for a fucking long time.
Okay.
And I'm talking about 2008, 2009.
Oh, okay.
All right. This is a new channel. So I'm one of the biggest Floyd advocates that you will ever come across.
Okay.
I was in the trenches for Floyd Pacquiao when people were coming over to my channel calling me monkey lover and calling me a Flomo and all kinds of crazy shit. Right. And I was in the trenches fighting for Floyd, standing up for Floyd and his abilities. So I'm one of the biggest Floyd supporters that you'll ever come across. Right. But do I think that he can't be eclipsed by it? Not just Devin, but any fighter. Of course he can. Of course he can. Anything is possible, right? And I look at it stylistically. I look mostly stylistically. Like, okay, who has the ability to, number one, because in boxing, a lot of times it's about longevity. How long can you last in the sport? Floyd Mayweather lasted a long time in the sport. The dude fought until he was 40, right? Retired undefeated. So he had longevity. He was very strategic. He retired. He comes back. He only fights twice a year. All that shit. All that came into play. He didn't fight as often as Sugar Ray Leonard or the Hearns or Haglers, right?
Yeah.
And he sure as fuck didn't fight as often as Sugar Ray Robinson and those guys back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But my point is that he was very strategic and exercised longevity. He fought who he needed to fight for, not only money, but legacy. At the end of the day, when you look at Floyd's resume, right? He's got De La Hoya on there. He's got Shane Mosley on there. He's got, like you mentioned earlier, Hernandez on there. He's got Castillo on there. He's got Diego Corrales on there. He's got a lot of credible names on his resume, and he did it while he made a lot of fucking money. So
agreed.
So my point is that Devin, in my opinion, emulates Floyd the most, and in the ability to be able to have longevity. He has a style that will keep him in the game for a long time because he is boxing first. He is defense first, boxing fundamentals first, utilizing the jab, maintaining distance. And there is a part of boxing where there's an argument, right? Is that when, I don't know if you have any experience boxing, Frank, but I've been in and out of the ring myself throughout my life. There's a sense when you get in the ring and spar somebody. There's two types of people. One person is, I'm gonna come after you, and I'm gonna take your best shot because I believe my shot's better than your shot. The other type
more
of
a
person
slugger,
is
a brawler,
a slugger, brawler, pressure fighter, and then you have the boxer who's like, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna jab, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna counter you, I'm gonna avoid, I'm gonna hold you if I have to, right? I'm gonna do whatever I can to not allow you to hit me because I don't want to get hit, right? And I was a mover. I have that style. I didn't like to exchange with motherfuckers, and get my head beat in.
No one wants to get
when
hit.
I go and do sparring, right? So naturally, I'm going to relate to fighters like Floyd, like Purnell, like Willie Pep, like these guys who are defense and boxing first.
Yeah, you're honest, at least.
So I appreciate the fact that you come on the panel and people are accusing you of being a troll. I don't think you're a troll. I just think that you have your opinion and you're sticking to it, and that is fine, right? But I also come from a long history of talking about this sport, being a part of this sport, and I don't waver. I'm very steadfast in my beliefs when it comes to the sweet science, and I believe Devin Haney possesses those skills.
Right.
And I think he beats any of the names that I've mentioned in this video, in the poll. The person that has the best chance, obviously, of beating him, in my opinion, is probably Shakur. And I give Tank second to Shakur in beating him. And that's simply because if Tank catches anybody, he puts you to sleep. And it's not like Tank is just winging big shots and he's just strong. It's that he actually calculates and times his punches. And it's the punch that you don't see that knocks you out, right? Speaking of Antonio Tarver and Roy Jones didn't see that shot.
No, he had his eyes
closed. He didn't see it. Yeah. So that's what it is. I got my man Out of Control Troll. Speaking about being in this bitch for a long time, Out of Control Troll is one of my original subscribers. Shout out to him.
So that was the question that
fighting versus boxing.
A question that I had for you was, so does Devin have to go undefeated? Does he have to go 50-0 to surpass Mayweather? No. Can he lose? Because that's what Mayweather hangs his hat on, is the TBE.
When I know Stormy was ready to answer this question, but I can ask you, Frank, where do you have Lennox Lewis on your all-time heavyweight list?
Bottom 10.
Bottom 10.
Yeah, it's preference. Mike is number one.
That's fine. Just be honest. Stormy. Yeah. Where do you have Lennox Lewis on your all?
I didn't see Ali. I go by what I see.
Around about, where do you have Lennox Lewis? Around about on your all-time heavyweight great list?
He's in the top 10. I don't have a for sure list that is right there, but I can tell you who is 1 and 2 on that top 10 list. But Lennox is in the top 10, but the 1 and 2, and it can switch from time to time, is Ali and Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
The teacher and the protege. And I think that Larry Holmes ended up with a better jab than Ali, which helped his career. Joe Louis is definitely in there. Jersey Joe is in there. I mean, when you talk about the top 10, you can take guys from the different eras, but Lennox is definitely in the top 10. And one of the reasons that Lennox should always solidly be considered is, just as we were talking about a moment ago, a man who ran to the fire. He wanted to test himself against everyone. And that's commendable, because your results at the end of the day for doing so is what separates you from other people. And I believe as long as there was a challenge, Lennox would be there to step up to it. Even in his last fight, a guy that he didn't have to fight in Vitaly Klitschko, he fought him and he defeated him. And that wasn't even the major guy he was supposed to be fighting. That was a replacement fight. So he still went out in a dangerous fight, and I thought it was admirable.
Now, not to cut you off, but I gotta say it while it's still fresh in my mind. For me, it's heavyweights. It's so tough, man, because you got Jack Johnson, Joe Louis. I mean, there's so many great heavyweights. Rocky Marciano was always, controversial and debatable, but nonetheless, a lot of people have him in the top 10. But for me, Lennox Lewis, for me, is probably top 6. And I'll tell you why. Speaking about what Frank was saying earlier, can you lose and still be considered an all-time great? Absolutely, yes. And Lennox
I agree.
He avenged all of his losses, right? And Lennox Lewis was one of the most skillful heavyweights that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Obviously, I didn't see Jack Johnson fight. I didn't see Joe Louis fight. I've seen tape, but I was alive watching Lennox. And to me, he was fucking amazing, in my opinion. And he lost. He's got knocked out, as a matter of fact. And he came back. And so he's still an all-time great, and I still have him in the top 6.
Right,
that's my opinion.
But going to Haney and Floyd has the 0, and that's why he considered himself better than Ali, Duran, and Leonard, is I never lost. So in order for Haney to accomplish that, he's going to never have to lose while fighting top competition all the time.
It's debatable. I mean, the conversation of undefeated is Rocky Marciano was undefeated. But that's why I was saying earlier, how credible was his wins, fighting aging champions like Jersey Joe, and those guys were obviously way past their prime. How much credit do you really give Joe or Rocky? How credible is that 49-0? I feel like Floyd's undefeated record is pretty fucking credible. Other than Conor McGregor being on there, I think it's kind of laughable.
No, that was a joke,
right? So I mean, technically he's 50-0, but I always say he's 49-0.
But don't you think Devin Haney
49-0 is pretty good? Now, did he fight everybody though?
No, he missed Gasolino Freitas, Joe Casamayor. He skipped over those guys. He skipped over Costa Zoo, Paul Williams, Vernon Forrest. Yeah, I'm aware of these things. That's why, it's open for subject and debate. Even Floyd's greatness is open for subject and debate. But the O is what keeps him there, and that's why I said is Devin Haney. That he has, in my opinion, if you're asking me, and I had to tell somebody in 20 years about boxing, go ahead.
But boxing is crazy though. He can go in there, he can beat Shakur, he can beat Teofimo, he can beat a bunch of guys, and then he faces Tank. So he could be pound for pound, essentially. He can be moving up to 140, defended belts, won all these belts. He could be fucking 37-0 by the time he faces Tank. Tank knocks him out, right?
Yeah.
But let's say Devin was winning the entire fight, was styling on Tank, and Tank knocks him out in the 11th round. There's probably going to be a rematch.
Okay.
Because that's how boxing works.
Right.
They had a rematch against Wilder and Fury after Wilder, damn near knocked him out, and they're like, oh, we got to have a rematch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that happens in boxing all the time. A guy boxes well, then he gets dropped, he gets knocked out. They're like, well, let's do it one more time.
Okay. But then by default,
then if he rematches Tank and outclasses Tank, he avenged that loss. So that one on his record, it's counterbalanced because you went in and you rematched and you won distinctively.
Yeah, but by default and public opinion, Haney Floyd will be popping, like the Dolphins do. He'll be popping bottles of champagne. When the NFL team loses, they're on the threat of going undefeated. They pop bottles of champagne to celebrate the last undefeated team. So when Devin Haney loses by default, he'll no longer be able to eclipse Floyd Mayweather.
I think it's debatable. Like I said, I've already stated my stance. I mean, if he goes undefeated, obviously that's extremely helpful. If he fights all of the competition that is out there, fights everybody in his divisions, conquers multiple weight classes, and that does matter. I mean, you gotta. I will say this for Devin Haney. Devin Haney can conquer 135 and stay there his entire career. He can beat every single fighter at 135, be undisputed. But I can't put him above Floyd because Floyd conquered multiple weight classes. He was
the closest. If we're going to talk about who has the best chance at Floyd right now is Bud Crawford. He has the close because if he were to beat Errol Spence and go undisputed at 2 weight classes, have a couple more fights, go undefeated, we may be talking, can Devin Haney eclipse Bud Crawford? He's the closest to Floyd right now, and he has a good chance to go undefeated.
I mean, obviously he's got to get past Errol Spence.
If it happens. But as far as even this conversation, I would say Bud is much more closer than Devin Haney is.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Stormy can chime in there. Me personally, trust me when I say
and
this,
Floyd went through 7 weight classes? How many weight classes did Floyd go through?
I think
126 to 154. Okay, where did Devin start at? 120, 130?
No, he's always been, I think, lightweight.
So how far can he go up? Probably 147 at the most.
Nah, why not? He can go to 154 easier. He's bigger than Floyd.
Oof.
Devin's 5'9" with a longer reach, bigger frame.
But he don't have the pop.
He's built. But once again, bro, I go back to the same point. He can box.
And I think Bud started at 135.
Bro, have you heard the stories of? I know Stormy's heard them. Of the stories of Tommy Hearns, like sparring heavyweights, right? He had power. Don't get me wrong, but he's a way smaller man. But Tommy can also box, right? So it's not unthinkable that a smaller man can outbox a bigger man. It's happened multiple times in the sport. Sugar Ray Robinson did it all the time.
No, I'm not saying
Henry Armstrong did it all the fucking time, right? So
yeah,
when you have boxing ability. And I've sparred bigger guys too. And a lot of times when you go into a gym, bigger guys want to work with smaller guys. Heavyweights want to work with middleweights because it forces them to move. Sometimes heavyweights, they don't like to move. They like to just, walk you down and throw big punches.
They're a little slower footed, bigger guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they get tired faster. So what I'm saying is that Devin can go up to 154, no fucking problem, because his frame and his boxing ability can take him there. So, yeah, he's going to be facing much stronger punches than what he did at 130. But Floyd, as well, had to go and face off against stronger punchers as he went up in weight classes, like all the all-time greats.
Yeah, and he never hit the deck, right? I think he had one close encounter hitting the deck.
Well, against Shane Mosley. But Shane Mosley was the same size he was. Shane Mosley he had power at 135. And Shane Mosley almost dropped him. So, look, I mean, look, man, we can go like back and forth and around circles about this shit all the time, or all day long. It's all out of good faith and for a boxing conversation. But definitely, for me, I just feel like, Haney has the skills to pay the bills. And that's just the way I feel about it. This is boxing. This is not who can punch harder. This is not who looks cooler, who looks stronger. I like his style because he can knock you out. I mean, I'm a fucking massive Deontay Wilder fan because he can knock people the fuck out. But the difference is that he's a heavyweight. I expect that from heavyweights. And somebody like, somebody that can move and box as a heavyweight, like a Sanchez, that guy moves and boxes really well as a heavyweight. It's great to see, but those guys are anomalies, right? And a lot of times boxers like that, because they box so well in the heavyweight division, it don't matter how well you box. See, in the lower weight classes, you can box well, take a big punch, you might be able to take it if you got a chin. But in the heavyweight division, though, I mean, you could be boxing, you get hit, that's it, game over in the heavyweights. So that's why for heavyweights, I've always liked Mike Tyson's and Deontay Wilder's and these guys, because it's like I want to tune into a big ass dude or two big men going at it, and I want to see who does what. Now, Muhammad Ali in his prime, bouncing around, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, like against Sonny Liston, that's a marvel to watch. But in the heavyweight division, that shit don't last. That type of movement and skill doesn't fucking last. So that's why I also feel that Tyson Fury started to deteriorate, and a part of the reason why he wants to retire is he can't, like, if you look at Tyson Fury earlier in his career, he was bouncing around, boxing. I mean, he boxed fucking Klitschko. I don't really think he can move like that anymore, in my opinion.
Well, he's almost 300 pounds.
They just don't last. Yeah. They just don't last that way. So, you know, I just think that when you come from 130, 126, whatever it is, and you have a frame like Devin, man, like the upside is massive. Like there are some guys who are 5'6", 130, they got a small reach. They can only go so far in weight classes because they're fucking small. But Devin probably walks around at like probably 150 plus easily. He walks around at that weight. He cuts weight to make lightweight. Guaranteed.
Right. So what's your prediction on the next year for Devin then? Because I know you really like him. So he'll fight Kambosos. No, what your prediction for the next year? Because how it's looking, he's going to fight Kambosos. Then the rumor is Lomachenko. Then he'll be up at 140. And I guess I'm just asking is how do you think he's going to perform at 140, and what names do you see him taking on there?
In a perfect world, all right, because obviously boxing politics and all of its bullshit. Anything can happen. I mean, Devin Haney can be calling out every fucking fighter under the sun. Doesn't mean that promoters or managers or fighters themselves are going to want to fight Haney. But in a perfect world, let me just pull up real quick all the names at 140.
I know the names, but I'm not. Yeah,
I feel like I don't really watch 40 too much. But I think right now he's at 135, and I don't think he's going to be leaving 135 within the next year.
Well, he already said he was considering doing it. He said it's hard for him to make it.
I believe he will, but I don't think he's going to do it by the end of this year. I think he's got at least two, maybe even.
Well, he's got Kambosos, and that's it.
At 135, I know, I understand, but I just feel that he's got at least two, maybe three more fights at 135 before he goes to 140. And so at 135, who do I think he'll fight before he moves to 140? I mean, obviously the fight that I want to see is will be Tank. Right? I just don't know. I don't know. Tank is so unpredictable, being with Floyd Mayweather Promotions and whatever the fuck got going on over there. And I just don't understand it anymore, and I'm tired of putting any energy into it. But I think very big possibility that he'll fight Lomachenko. And I think that if Teofimo Lopez performs well in his next fight, I think he can definitely possibly fight Lopez. So I think he's going to get at least two of those. And I want to say Ryan Garcia, but Ryan Garcia is so full of cap that I don't match anybody up with Ryan Garcia, because he might fuck around and go fight somebody like Zepeda or some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like Ryan Garcia, I don't even want to give him any faith because he hasn't really shown me much faith. So I think that he'll fight Teofimo. I think he'll fight Lomachenko, and maybe even possibly an Isaac Cruz. Those are more of like my above 50% chances. But who would I like to see the most would be Tank, obviously. Now,
yeah, well, Tank is mandatory.
Yeah, and you would like to think that fight would happen, right? But like I said, Floyd is he's a different person as a promoter than he was a fighter. Like let's keep it a buck. At 140, I think that he could fight. I just don't know. I don't know where Josh Taylor will go. I mean, obviously he's got Jack Catterall problems. He's got to take care of Jack Catterall, in my opinion. Right. And I don't know if he decides to stick around or go up to 147. But ideally, I think that if he does stick around, I can see a Devin Haney, Josh Taylor fight being made. I can see a Porgrias. I can even see a Jose Ramirez fight. I think there's a lot of fights at 140 that can be potentially made.
Yeah, depending on who he's with. He has a 3-fight deal. That's what they said. He has a 3-fight deal, and then I'm assuming he'd be a free agent.
Yeah.
But, so the reason I asked that is because you think he beats the top guys at 140 also? He beats Josh Taylor. He beats Teofimo.
Yes. I think he beats Josh Taylor for sure.
And he beats
Josh Taylor.
Lopez.
Josh Taylor to me, before Josh Taylor fought Catterall, I was kind of like, I think he's good. I think he's pretty fucking good, but I don't know if I'm sold on him yet. I need him to look good. And then I think he got exposed against Jack. I was actually shocked. I commentated that fight live. I was like, really? I was expecting. Now, maybe he had a bad night. But that's what I said. He's got Jack Catterall problems. He's got to sort that out before I give him any other type of credibility. But based off of it right now, until he goes in there and outclasses Jack Catterall, I think Devin Haney beats Josh, and I think he beats him soundly.
Yeah, no, and that, I'm just being fair and honest. And when I say it is really just how I feel and what I think. It's just honesty. I'm not a fanboy of PBC or, all the things that split boxing up, like the gentleman was saying, well, this is why the fights ain't happening. It's like, look, I understand that just like anybody. So it is hard to compare. But I'm not a fanboy, and I guess, like you said, I'm a troll. I don't know what trolling is. I just speak what I think and feel, and I guess if that's disagreeing with you, that's trolling, but I think it's okay to disagree. That's what boxing is, right? Pound for pound list, you get votes. It's somebody, that's just the game that we like.
I'm fine with it. As long as, what I'm saying, anybody that comes onto the panel, as long as you're respectful, we don't have to agree on everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes it sounds like an echo chamber. It's fine, like I got guys that are ardent supporters of the channel, even donate to the channel, and then they come in here and be like, Divine, like, I ain't feeling you on this part. Like, we have a conversation. It's just that, unfortunately, there are a lot of fucking trolls that are disrespectful, that have a lack of knowledge of boxing. They're a fan of a particular fighter.
Yeah, and I just wanted to
and then they come in here and they start bullshitting around. I had somebody in here not too long ago trying to talk about how it's okay if Deontay Wilder's picture of being knocked out against Tyson Fury, it's okay to continue to plaster that photo all over social media. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that for any fighter. Like, it's like it would be like people still fucking posting Manny Pacquiao laying face down on the fucking canvas after he got knocked down against Juan. Nobody does that because everyone's like, we'll respect Manny Pacquiao. He's a legend in the sport. Now, they did it right after the fact, right? But they certainly didn't fucking do it too much longer after that. We're damn near more than a year past the fight, and they're still out there disrespecting Wilder. So you get people like that, just because he's a Fury fan, and that's the only thing he knows.
There you go. Because if I was a troll or a hater, I guess what it is, I'd be coming in here on the Tank tip or the Ryan tip. I would try to focus the whole entire argument around, well, Garcia beat him, Tank beat him. That's a troll to me. If you notice our conversations took different turns, using history. Yeah, that's not troll. That's just stating.
It's no different than a barbershop conversation, and we chopping it up about whatever it may be about life. People have different opinions about, dating life. Like, what I'm saying? You gotta approach a chick like this, or no, you don't. Like, I do it this way. On my way's better. Like, whatever.
What trolling is, if I said, dude, F you because Haney can't sell shit and so he doesn't deserve. I didn't say any of that. I just say, hey, maybe he has a trouble selling. I'm not saying that's why he shouldn't fight. I'm just saying that's what kind of the situation is. That to me is trolling. Or Tank is gonna knock him out and you don't know shit. It's like, I'm not a fan of any of these guys.
And it takes courage, to go on anybody's panel, and try to stand your ground and state your opinion. So I respect that. I know it takes courage to do that, and it does not take courage though to click the link and come and talk shit. That's no courage. That's stupidity.
Well, when you talk shit, you gotta have the facts or the to back it up. Like, you have to have a reason why you feel the way you feel. And
so yeah, man, it's all out of love, man. And like I said, I've been a part of this for a long time, and I've been in debates where, even some of my boys, like we're like straight up boys, and they can't stand Mayweather, and we fucking argue about it all the time. They can't stand him, and I'm a big fan, and we go at each other's throats, like it's part of it. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, we shake hands and we keep it moving. Now I do unfortunately have to end this stream. Okay. I got some shit to do. Respect. But I saw King of Kings come in here. Yo, King of Kings, I hate to bring you in and then drop out. So was there anything that you wanted to say right quick? Or
I just wanted to say what's up, man. I was enjoying the show, man. That's it. Salute, bro. Thanks for coming through tonight, man. I needed some boxing talk.
Hey, I appreciate you. I try my best to come on here and saying get some conversations going, get the juices flowing a little bit. And hopefully, we'll get a Firestorm panel. We'll get Stormy back on here. We'll get Drew Titan in here. We'll get some big, credible names in here. We can get a conversation going about, more than likely, Usyk Joshua. We'll probably talk about Bud and Spence, because how can you not? Until we know for a fact that fight is dead in the water, never going to happen. I think people are still going to talk about it. We'll probably talk about... talk a little bit about Ryan Garcia. We'll talk a little bit about Devin Haney. We'll talk a little bit about Tank. So y'all can look forward to that and that future live stream. And so make sure you all pay attention. I know it's hard, to come on these late live streams, but unfortunately, it's really the only time that I can do it. So always make a mental note. If Divine's going to go live, it's probably going to be around 9 p.m. Eastern time, somewhere along that time frame. So make a mental note of that. Worries. Even if you can't, like get your notifications, because I know a lot of you guys are struggling to get notifications with your channels, certain channels that you like and support out here. But just make a mental note, like Divine, if he's going to go live, let me just peep in real quick to see if he's live around 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's usually around the time I go live. But yeah, man, it's been good. Great conversation. I enjoyed it. I think we were able to knock out some points, and let the people think, because that's what it's all about. When we have conversations, people in the chat, people watching, some of them are casual fans, some of them just got into boxing, some of them may have their opinions, and when you have these conversations, it makes you think, and that's what it is. It's brain exercise, and that's what we want to do. Exactly. So look, man, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Frank, once again, man, thanks for dropping by. You're sub to the channel, you. Right?
Yes.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate the sub, and like I said, thanks for dropping in. Thanks for having a great conversation, and I'll be catching you guys on the next one, man. Y'all stay up, be strong, stay positive, man.
Keep watching.
Yes, sir.